My nieces tried to shove me in the pool, their phones sank, and my BILs got arrested breaking in. I went to the family barbecue, even though I didn't want to. The grill smoke hung over the pool, kids ran on the wet deck, and my sisters filmed everything. The game of the day was pushing people in. Two cousins went over the edge laughing. An uncle slipped and belly flopped. My nephews and nieces lined up behind me with a phone pointed at my back. I told them to stop and that I wouldn't play. They rushed me anyway. I stepped sideways. The kids tumbled in, the phone flew, and I watched it sink to the bottom while the kids came up coughing and sputtering. That night my phone lit up. My sisters and their husbands sent angry texts about how I almost let their kids drown and how I owed them for the phone. My wife and I blocked them. My parents read the messages and called, furious. They told my sisters to apologize and to stop the nonsense. I thought it was over. Then, one brother-in-law found a new number and texted that I needed to reimburse him. I refused, sent my parents a screenshot, and said I was going no contact. My dad, who never raises his voice, called them and told them to stop. After a quiet week, the truth started spilling out. My parents said they weren't rich and couldn't keep patching. Then they told me my oldest sister had been secretly renting out my vacation house about once a month for years and keeping the money. My middle sister knew and maybe did the same. My parents warned me both would come by and try to sell me a plan. They were right. My sisters showed up smiling and pushed past my door as I opened it. They said the house should be open for family anytime and that I should pay for their kids' college because that's what family does. I told them to leave. We argued. They left. I drove up to the place and locked it down. I ran a heavy chain across the gate, reset the keypads, made new codes, put up cameras, and posted a sign. My parents said they were done managing the calendar and chores for the house because my sisters kept pushing them, and I told them to rest. Both husbands called me. One sounded like he was reading a script. The other said he'd go with friends, like he always had, and would break in if he had to anyway. I told him to try it and see how it worked out. I hired a caretaker named David and told him to check the cameras. On Friday, my wife and I spent the day with her family and left our phones in the car. While we were eating, both brothers-in-law drove to the house. They cut the chain, chewed up the front door trying to pry it, went in through a side door and broke into the barn. David saw them on the cameras and called the sheriff. Deputies showed up fast. The husbands said they were allowed, but they were not. They were booked for breaking and entering, destruction of property, and communicating threats. By the time I checked my phone that night, I had missed calls from David, my parents, and the sheriff's office. The next morning, I saved the videos and texts and called two attorney friends for a referral. I told my wife I wanted restraining orders. She said she was done with the drama and that it was my call, but they needed a hard lesson. Photos from David showed the cut chain, a gouged door, and a snapped barn latch. I slept badly and saw torn wood when I shut my eyes. On Monday, I met a lawyer. He said we could sue and likely win, but it could take years and cost a lot. He said there might be another path if they paid for everything and signed to stay away. That afternoon, a courier came to my office with an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $5,000 and a letter signed by both husbands. The letter said they broke in. They were wrong, and the money was for the damage. It said they would pay more if repairs cost more and would stay away unless my wife and I invited them. It asked me to help get the charges dropped because they could lose their jobs. The note was plain. For the first time in months, I felt the edge come off my anger. I met the lawyer again, and we read the letter carefully. He advised a settlement and mutual release with my sisters and their husbands. A lawsuit might get me a judgment, he said, but not a check, and the stress would drag out. With a settlement, we could lock in payment, distance, and rules for contact. I called my property manager and got a repair estimate for around $4,000, mostly for the ruined front door. My lawyer called each husband, told them to get counsel, and laid out the plan. One said they could afford the damage or a lawyer, not both, and wanted it over. I drove home with the envelope on the passenger seat and kept my phone on silent. At the kitchen table that night, my wife and I agreed on the line we would hold. We would sign the settlement when the papers were ready and the damage was paid in full. Then I would go to the prosecutor and ask to dismiss. The locks, the cameras, and the distance would stay. Now, my family are saying I ruined Thanksgiving by going no contact. Was I wrong?